From the core members of the Warriors dynasty playing like shells of their former selves, to everyone wondering whether the Dubs will be able to turn their terrible season around. Let's talk about why the Golden State Warriors are struggling. After winning it all in 2022, we all thought the Warriors were back, but that couldn't be any further from the truth, especially since their best players aren't the same beasts anymore. Curry was the only bright spot in 2023, and during the 2024 campaign, he's been pretty inconsistent. But what's confusing is the fact that Golden State started the season really strong, going 6-2 in their first 8 games. Everyone, including myself, thought the Warriors were going to have a much better campaign than the previous year. But soon after, it was clear that they're doomed for failure. They went on a 6-game losing streak, and since then, things haven't been the same. If anything, they keep getting worse. But we all know why they can't win games. Steph, Klay, and Draymond are playing like scrubs. Yeah, I know Curry's trying his best for the team and all, but he's simply not consistent enough to do real damage for the Dubs. He'll score 25 to 35 points one game, then score 11 the next on garbage efficiency. When your team's in a horrible spot and your star player's doing that, then there really isn't much hope. Sometimes Steph plays so passively that it seems like he isn't even out there for the Warriors. As for Klay, all he's good at doing now is flexing his 4 rings. He might have some good games here and there, but his bad games are far more common. All he does is take terrible contested threes all game long, shooting the Warriors out of close games. Instead of playing it smart and slowing things down, he just chucks shots the moment he gets his hands on the ball. And to make things worse, he doesn't bring much else to the table besides shooting. His defense isn't good anymore, and his rebounding skills aren't anything too special. But as bad as Thompson's been, no one can beat Draymond Green when it comes to being a washed, overrated bum. He barely plays now, and when he does, he doesn't do anything special. It also doesn't help that their next best player, Andrew Wiggins, has become a scrub as well. Maple Jordan went from being an all-star that helped the Warriors win a championship to being a player who only deserves to come off the bench. All season long, it's been the same thing with him, brick after brick. But it's not just his offensive skills that have taken a hit, because he's also not the same beast on the glass or defense. With one of their best players turning into a subpar role player, it's not surprising that the team's struggling so much. Everyone on the squad who's supposed to be carrying the team is playing terribly, while the bench players, full of young athletes, are actually playing their roles well. Unfortunately, though, their efforts are always for nothing because their so-called best players drop stinkers. It's gotten so bad that Steph himself, one of the calmest dudes in the league, has started showing signs of frustration. First, during their game against the Suns in December, where they lost 119 to 116, he looked incredibly done with his team and then kicked the hell out of a chair in anger before yelling, "This is terrible." On top of that, when the Warriors fans booed the team after their blowout loss to New Orleans, he looked visibly upset with his performance so far and said that the team deserves to be booed. Unfortunately for Golden State, things only got worse from here on out because their assistant coach, Dejan Milojevic, lost his life due to a heart attack. For those who don't know, Dejan was a basketball legend in Serbia, with many referring to him as the Serbian Charles Barkley. After a slow first 2 seasons in Europe, he soon started showing everyone how good he was as his numbers kept getting better and peaked in 2005 when he dropped 22.3 points, 8.4 boards, and 3 assists on stellar efficiency. He always loved the game of basketball, so once he stopped playing, he chose to become a coach. And believe it or not, he played a huge role in helping Nikola Jokic blossom into the superstar we know him as. Then, in 2021, Milojevic joined the Warriors coaching staff, and he immediately had a positive impact on the team. He was a calming presence, and during his 2.5 years with the Warriors, he always reminded the squad of the power of positivity and always made sure to have a smile on his face. On top of that, he was great at his job and played a huge role in helping the Warriors win a ring in 2022. And as you can imagine, that makes things far worse for the Warriors because of the emotional burden that they're carrying. As it is, they haven't had any good games, and now they're not doing too well at an emotional level, which only makes things harder for the players. They were all visibly heartbroken by the news, but in their first game after his death, they went out there and took care of business in honor of him. Either way, there's no doubt that their morale has taken a pretty big hit. And the news of Dayon's passing isn't the only thing that's affected the Warriors, because Draymond's violent antics have also made things rough for the squad. For some reason, Draymond's gone from an NBA player to an MMA fighter. Green always had violent tendencies, but he really kicked things up a notch in 2023. First, he stomped Sabonis's chest. Then, he put Rudy Gobert in a headlock. And then he hit Jusuf Nurkic with a crazy elbow to the face. He kept getting ejected, and after the incident with Nurk, the NBA suspended him. Rather than playing to his strengths, he's chosen to be violent and ends up getting ejected, leaving the Warriors without much defense. What's more, his behavior has given the Warriors a terrible reputation, and now not only do fans of opposing teams hate the team, but even their own fans are starting to show less support. While Green was suspended, he claimed that it was all getting too much for him, and that he considered retiring altogether. But that's just being over the top if you ask me. I mean, all Dre was asked to do was play ball like a normal person, rather than hit everyone, which was not too difficult. So such a reaction was unnecessary. At this point, it's clear that Golden State has a lot of issues, and the only way they can deal with them is if they revamp their squad. The trade deadline is coming up, and now's the time to make some moves. While Steph's inconsistent, he's still the best player on the team, so he's the only untouchable player in trade talks. That means the Warriors need to make trades that will build a solid team around him. First things first, they need to get rid of Draymond Green and get their hands on a legit big man instead. The Dubs have been having a tough time, mainly because they don't have that 7-foot paint beast that can clean the glass, block shots, and score efficiently inside the paint. Jarrett Allen or Jakob Poeltl would be great on the Warriors, or even someone like Nurkic, because then the Dubs won't be cooked every time they're up against a team with size. On top of that, they don't have a good secondary scoring option to complement Curry, so they have to trade Clay and Wiggins to try to get someone like Mikal Bridges, or even DeJounte Murray. Heck, even Miles Bridges would be a great player to add to the team. There are many options out there for Golden State, and they also have many players they could use to get those options. If they're smart and know what's good for them, they'll make a bunch of big moves before the trade deadline, because that's the only way they can turn things around for the better in 2024. After all, no one was expecting the Warriors to be this bad, and now many wonder if they can bounce back. They definitely can, because there's still half of the season left, and if the Dubs go on an impressive win streak, they could become a 6th seed. But of course, that's not going to happen if they keep relying on their current group of players. They're only going to keep Golden State within play-in contention at most. Though if the Warriors actually make moves, then they actually have a chance to get a respectable win total and even make some noise in the playoffs. It all comes down to whether the Golden State front office is willing to part ways with 2 of their core members. But at the end of the day, it's only for the betterment of the franchise. So from everyone wondering whether the Dubs will be able to turn their terrible season around, to the core members of the Warriors dynasty playing like shells of their former selves, that was everything on why the Warriors are struggling.